this on my next class also. I think it's pretty nice.
Okay, so
I haven't tried it, Dirk, but I know Reiner has tried it and he really likes it. So this
this
awesome.
is so this good. So this is the same. So what the previous app is effectively what we have on that first screen here. So you can see this is just to modify your tab. Effectively modifying, this is the equivalent or enhanced equivalent of tab clean, where you could just effectively delete records that you didn't want. And here you can play around and you can also see things. So I have these fields. So you can add all of your fields in your tab, user angle, user throttle. So Adam, you will recognize this is kind of your Seattle race kind of a couple of years ago, I believe. And if you run through this, basically, then you can see the values, and you can go and set an interval, basically set left, so that's the current 361, set right is 422, and then you can go and delete those, for example, and then you can go to the training effectively, and then these things are deleted. So you can modify and delete the data much more easily than in the old UI. And it also works with a lot of records. So I ran it also on 300,000 records. It still behaves very responsively.
Hey, Dirk, left and right, is that the same as start and finish?
Yes, that is exactly. I just called it left and right, but so that's the interval he basically here. And you can delete and you can restore basically. And if you want to see this in action, you need to press reload tab. And if I run it now, basically, then once I come to 361, it will jump over it. You see the counter on the top. You see it jumped over this here, right? When I went. And I can do this here really in real time. I can run it in real time. I can move the slider. I don't know how fast your web is, but it's really super responsive.
It looks great. Looks really good.
So this
is more responsive. You have a tab editor.
Yeah, exactly. It does do the tab editing much nicer and smoother. And I also set this filter, right? If you want to see, if you want to run only, for example, you have a trained model and then you are not good in your left corners, you could just use filter for the left corners, like user angle, angle larger than 0, and set that filter. Do I say set filter? And then you could actually, you would need to say reload tab. And then now you only have kind of right steering records effectively in your tab. This does not flow through.
I touched my mind what you're saying about Windows. It's not that you may not run Windows, just haven't tested Windows. But
exactly, the thing is, I don't own Windows. I have to use Windows at work. I had to use Windows at work for the last 20 years, and that completely puts me off, actually. So I don't want to waste a single more second on Windows, although, to be honest, I'm trying to get the GitHub Actions, the build, to also work in Windows, and as usual, it's there where I struggle. On Ubuntu and on Mac, it's already working, basically, our build, our CI, but in principle, should work on Windows as well. So I'll have a look at this, but I can't do anything locally with Windows.
But you say this works on Linux and Mac?
Yeah.
Okay,
for sure.
Great. And one last question. If you add other data fields to the tub, will they show up?
Yes, they will. So my tabs have like 10 data fields because I have lots of extra data. They all show up. So I could probably do it. Oh no, I just need to use load. Go to load tab here. It is, I think, in data 2. This is one of my tabs. Let me load this one. And you see there are lots of fields. I have car distance, car speed, whatever. I have acceleration in all dimensions. I have total meters in lap, and I have all different stuff. And what you need for that, actually, and I see this is currently something that I still need to debug. You don't see the bar here on the left-hand side because I think it doesn't. You need to set up what's your minimum and maximum value. That is something that you have in your configuration, And once you put this in the configuration file, it will also show the bar.
So you have an encoder in there, basically. That's how you can get this stuff speed.
Yeah, I always have encoders. In my car, I have speed encoders, and I have IMU. I have this kind of all the time. But also to show this little fancy bar here, you need to put something in your configuration file. And I should have this in my configuration, but maybe I deleted this just for that. And you also get this this graphical display here, basically, on what you see for user throttle, where we know user throttle is normalized between 0 and 1. So you get this graphical display. It's quite useful if you want to run and want to see basically how the thing moves. Yeah. So this is for the tab editing. The idea is you edit the tab. And what I've done now on top of this, I also actually created a trainer site, a trainer window, so you can actually train the model from here. I don't know if it's super useful to have, yeah, because I know training takes a lot of time. Sometimes my training jobs run overnight because I run on 300,000 data and with some settings and so on and so forth. So for this one, it's not really useful. But if you only run on a single tab or so, you can override all of your configuration values here. So I have like max epochs, and what you would want to set, I think I just set it to, I set it to 2 here just in order to be quick, but you can override all of your values in your settings effectively. You can choose your model, it shows linear, you can put a comment, you training or whatever, and you can press train. It actually trains it in the background. We don't see the shell because it's running in a different window. And what I've done also, I've added a small database. So every time you train a model, you don't need to give it a name anymore. It auto-generates a name with the same pattern that we use for the tab. You don't need to give a tab name as well, but you auto-generate the tab.
Someone spent quite a bit of time on this. Very nice.
Well, it was. But once you start doing it, actually, Jack, then it turns out you think, oh, I could do this little bit and this bit. And in a way, I try to do something that makes sense for me, basically, because it's a little bit how I'm using this myself. But I usually train a couple of models which are slightly different, and then benchmark them against each other and to see which one is better, which one generalizes better. And these are these 3 steps that I do all the time: modifying the tab, training a couple of models, benchmarking, and then reiterate from the start. And I wanted to capture this workflow in this small app that actually allows to do it. I don't know why the training is not finished now.
So you're training Mac just with CPU, not GPU?
Yeah, but it's not on the CPU. It's just 2 epochs. I know why it's not, because I've used my tab and not the previous tab, and that is much bigger. So I'll stop this here, but it doesn't really matter. And then I have this pilot arena, and I showed this already in the Discord group. So here you can actually load 2 models. Yeah, so I chose 2 different models, and it helps obviously. So what I've done in this, let me go back to the trainer, because this is kind of this is a little bit the database. It records the pilot, the type, linear or categorical, the tab that went into the data, and you can put a comment here, and so that's optional, but it's just to remember I trained with augmentation or without or stuff like this. And so if you go to the pilot arena, then you can put 2 pilots here, and you can run them against each other, and as well you can display these fields here: user angle, user throttle.
So just to make sure I got this. So the same tab is being fed into 2 pilots, and you can compare then the output.
Correct. Exactly. So now obviously I don't have the right model because I've now changed the tab, but it doesn't matter for this quick demo here. So it's obviously Adam's Seattle data that is now running through my garden, which is obviously a completely wrong model, but doesn't matter. But you can run this here, and then you can test the models against each other. And one thing that because I'm training outside, always struggling with is light and the change of the light conditions. So I also implemented this augmentation. So we can now switch on, for example, a brightness augmentation. You can now run and change the brightness on the picture, and you can see how much the model is sensitive. The blue line is from the pilot. So you see if I tune up the brightness, the left pilot reacts a little bit more than the right one. You can also put some blur, and I can actually do this even when I run and see how well does the model generalize against. Now it gets a little bit slower, obviously. How well does the model generalize against artifacts in the images? And I can try to find a good augmentation that makes my model more stable.
So you're applying a filter in real time before you feed that to the model.
Yeah,
Yes.
augmentation. This is just an augmentation that he's doing in real time.
They're using this new kind of training pipeline, right, that Rahul and I worked on, that you can pipe in basically your changes in your X data, even in training as well as in inference.
Yeah,
basically.
this is one of the things that we worked on, that the new training pipeline unlocks. You can actually like swap augmentations on the fly and just see the model behave very differently. It's so nice to be able to see like them side by side, because this is what you want eventually. So
yeah, so this is so now we're back to normal. And if you have a little bit more computation power than my small Mac here, then obviously this will be really, really responsive. And this is a little bit, I say, this is a little bit the workflow. I can switch this off now. This is a little bit the workflow that I personally have been using, which works for me. Again, right, it's just a small angle of what everyone else probably is doing, but that's what the thing that just makes sense to me. So if you guys have more suggestions, then please let me know. On the other side, I would really like to push this to dev kind of soon, replace the current Kinta-based UI with this one, because it has exactly the same functionality plus much more, and get your feedback from the pull request, because I changed something in the training, right? The auto generation of that name, the generation of this training database with the comments and all of this. There's a couple of lines of code, and I would also put a little bit of more documentation on the Kiwi UI. I don't know if anyone has written some Kiwi UI in Python. It is a little bit of a special language there, but it's very useful. And once you get it up and running, it's quite neat, honestly. Kiwi allows a lot of things in a UI, which are otherwise pretty hard to get. So I think it's also a good platform to extend the functionality if you guys think it's useful to have.
Dirk, that is fantastic. If you can document a little bit how to get it up and running, I'll try it on Windows.
Yeah, you just type donkey. If I get it in dev, you just type donkey UI. It will start, and I can write a couple of lines how the UI actually works. But it's almost self-explanatory. It's really simple. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Okay, fine for me. That's fine. You can also, yeah. Well, for the community, maybe I should put a little bit more effort in. But yeah, sure. I can do this a little bit more properly, the functionality, and keep the